a vault at Yale University's Voynich Rare Book Library, there sits a book that has destroyed careers, driven scholars to madness, and humiliated the world's greatest codebreakers. It's written in a language that doesn't exist, illustrated with plants that have never been found on Earth, and filled with diagrams that seem to depict something. But what? For over 600 years, this manuscript has guarded its secrets. The NSA tried to crack it. AI has failed. Linguists call it impossible. And yet, someone wrote it. Someone knew what it meant. Tonight, we're diving into the Voynich Manuscript, the world's most mysterious book. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why some people believe it should have stayed buried. Our story begins in 1912, in the Italian countryside. An American book dealer named Wilfred Voynich was hunting for rare manuscripts in a Jesuit college near Rome. He was experienced, well-connected, and had seen thousands of ancient texts. But nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to find. Hidden away in a chest, forgotten for centuries, was a small vellum codex, about 240 pages, roughly 6 by 9 inches. But when Voynich opened it, he realized he was holding something that shouldn't exist. The book was filled with writing in a script no one had ever seen. Not Latin, not Greek, not Arabic or Hebrew or any known alphabet. The letters were graceful, flowing, almost decorative, but they formed words that meant nothing. And the illustrations. Oh, the illustrations. The first section showed plants, dozens of them, meticulously drawn with roots, leaves, flowers. But here's the problem. Not a single one of these plants exists. Botanists have searched. These aren't stylized versions of real plants. They're completely unknown species. Plants with impossible root systems. Flowers that couldn't function in nature. The next section showed astronomical charts. Circular diagrams with stars, moons, and zodiac symbols. But the arrangements were wrong. They didn't match any known medieval understanding of the cosmos. Then came the strangest section. Dozens of naked women, drawn in green and blue ink, bathing in pools connected by elaborate pipe systems. The women are small, almost doll-like. The pools are filled with mysterious liquid. What was this depicting? A spar? A ritual? Something else entirely? More pages showed jars, roots, and what appeared to be medical recipes. Then more dense paragraphs of that impossible text. Voynich knew immediately that he'd found something extraordinary. He spent the rest of his life trying to decipher it. He failed. He died in 1930, and the manuscript passed through several owners before landing at Yale in 1969, where it remains today, catalogued simply as Ms. 408. But the mystery was just beginning. For decades, no one knew how old the manuscript actually was. Experts guessed anywhere from the 1400s to the 1600s. Some thought it might be a Renaissance hoax. Others believed it was far more ancient. Then, in 2009, researchers at the University of Arizona performed radiocarbon dating on the vellum itself. The results shocked everyone. The pages dated to between 1404 and 1438, early 15th century. This wasn't some Victorian forgery. This was a genuine medieval manuscript. Someone in the early 1400s sat down and created this thing. Think about what that means. In 1420, while the world was still emerging from the medieval period, someone was writing in a completely unknown script, illustrating impossible plants and creating diagrams that served some purpose. We can trace some of the manuscript's ownership. A letter tucked inside, dated 1665, mentions that the book once belonged to Emperor Rudolf I of Bohemia, who purchased it for 600 gold ducats, a massive sum. The letter claims Rudolf believed it was written by Roger Bacon, the 13th century English philosopher and proto-scientist. Roger Bacon was known for his radical ideas about experimental science and his interest in cryptography. He wrote in codes. He challenged church authority, and some of his works were considered too dangerous to be published. Could he have created the Voynich manuscript? No. The carbon dating proves the vellum is from a century after Bacon's death. But someone in the 1600s believed he wrote it. That means the manuscript's mystery was already well established 350 years ago. Before Rudolf, the trail goes cold. We don't know who commissioned it. We don't know who wrote it. And we certainly don't know why. When news of the Voynich manuscript spread through the academic world, it attracted attention from the most brilliant minds of the 20th century. If anyone could crack this code, they could. They all failed. In 1919, a professor named William Newbold claimed he'd deciphered it. He said the text revealed advanced scientific knowledge, including descriptions of cellular biology and the Andromeda galaxy. centuries before microscopes existed. The academic world was stunned. Then, in 1931, other scholars reviewed his work. They found that Newbold had projected meaning onto random scratches in the ink. He'd seen what he wanted to see. His theory collapsed. Some say the humiliation contributed to his early death. During World War II, the manuscript caught the attention of military codebreakers. These were the people breaking Nazi Enigma codes, some of the most complex encryption in human history. Surely they could handle a medieval book. William Friedman, one of America's greatest cryptanalysts, became obsessed with the Voynich Manuscript. He studied it for decades, applying every technique in his arsenal: frequency analysis, pattern recognition, statistical modeling. Nothing worked. In the 1950s and 60s, the NSA, America's most secretive intelligence agency, took a crack at it. They had supercomputers, teams of linguists, the most advanced code-breaking technology on Earth. They gave up. Fast forward to the 21st century. We have AI, machined like magic to medieval scribes. Surely now, with all our technology, we can solve this. Multiple AI projects have analyzed the manuscript. They've found patterns in the text. They've detected statistical properties that suggest it's not random gibberish. There's structure, there's consistency. It behaves like language, but they can't read it. The AI can tell us it means something. It just can't tell us what. Over the past century, dozens of theories have emerged about what the Voynich Manuscript actually is. Let's examine the most compelling ones. Speaker Theory 1: it's an elaborate hoax. Some scholars believe the manuscript is a Renaissance-era con job, perhaps created to sell to a wealthy collector like WWII. The idea is that a clever forger created an invented script, filled it with gibberish, added strange illustrations, and sold it as an ancient mystical text. The 15th and 16th centuries were filled with fraudulent manuscripts and fake relics. Why not this? But there's a problem. The text shows statistical properties that are incredibly difficult to fake. The word frequency follows patterns similar to natural languages. Certain letter combinations appear consistently. It would have taken immense effort to maintain such consistency across 240 pages of gibberish. And why would a hoaxer make it impossible to read? Wouldn't a forgery need to be decipherable to seem authentic? Speaker Theory 2: it's a constructed language. Perhaps someone in the 1400s invented an entire language from scratch. A philosophical language meant to represent concepts directly, bypassing the limitations of Latin or vernacular tongues. This was a real intellectual pursuit in later centuries. John Wilkins created a philosophical language in the 1600s. But doing this in 1420 would make the author a genius far ahead of their time. The problem? Even constructed languages need a key, a grammar, a dictionary, and none has ever been found. Speaker Theory 3: it's an encoded herbal or medical text. Many believe the manuscript is a genuine medical or botanical encyclopedia, written in code to protect trade secrets or avoid religious persecution. In medieval times, medical knowledge was valuable and dangerous. The church controlled what could be written about the human body. Herbalists and healers often guarded their recipes jealously. Perhaps the bizarre plants are coded versions of real ones. The bathing women might represent hydrotherapy treatments. The astronomical charts could relate to medical astrology, which was standard practice. But if it's encoded, why hasn't anyone found the cipher? And why have botanical experts found zero correlation between the illustrated plants and any known species, even accounting for stylization? Speaker Theory 4: it's written in a lost or obscure language. What if the manuscript isn't in code at all? What if it's written in a language that simply died out? In 2014, a researcher named Stephen Bax claimed he'd identified several words in the manuscript by comparing them to medieval plant names in various languages. He suggested it might be written in extinct dialect. The problem? Other linguists couldn't replicate his findings, and the structure of the text doesn't match any known language family. It's too repetitive to pattern-heavy. Real languages don't work that way. Speaker Theory 5: it's not meant to be read. Here's where things get unsettling. What if the manuscript was never meant to communicate information in the traditional sense? What if it's something else entirely? Some researchers believe it could be a form of glossolalia, speaking in tongues, written down during religious ecstasy, an artistic project exploring the concept of language itself, a meditation tool, where the act of writing was more important than the content, or something darker, a ritual text meant to be read aloud without comprehension, where the sounds themselves held power. The medieval world was filled with grimoires, books of magic spells. Many were written in corrupted Latin or invented angelic languages. What if the Voynich Manuscript is a magical text, and its power came from its incomprehensibility? After all, not everything written down is meant to be understood. The more scientists analyze the Voynich Manuscript, the stranger it becomes. Let me share some discoveries that make even skeptics uncomfortable. The Zipf's law problem. There's a linguistic principle called Zipf's law. In natural languages, the most common word appears about twice as often as the second most common word, 3 times as often as the third, and so on. It's a universal pattern found in every human language ever studied. The Voynich Manuscript follows Zipf's law almost perfectly. That means either it's a real language, or someone in 1420 understood complex statistical linguistics centuries before the field existed. Both options are disturbing. The repetition anomaly. The text repeats itself in ways that don't make sense. The same word will appear 2 or 3 times in a row. The same short phrases recur constantly. Some pages are filled with slight variations of the same few words. No natural language does this. But pure gibberish doesn't follow statistical patterns. So what is it? The impossible plants. Botanists have studied the plant illustrations extensively. They've found that while individual features resemble real plants, the combinations are biologically impossible. It's like someone described plants to an artist who had never seen one, or like someone was illustrating plants from a place that isn't Earth. The biological section. Those strange images of women bathing in pools connected by tubes. Some researchers believe they represent the female reproductive system, with the pools as organs and the tubes as fallopian tubes. Others think they show an alchemical process, with the women representing stages of transformation. A few believe they're depicting something we don't have context for, a ritual, a place, an experience. Look at their faces. They're eerily calm, almost blank, like they're not quite human. The hidden details. Under high-resolution scanning, researchers have found tiny details invisible to the naked eye. Minute corrections, annotations, sketches that were drawn and then erased. This wasn't dashed off quickly. Someone labored over this for months, possibly years. Someone cared deeply about getting it right. But right for what purpose? In the past decade, new technologies have brought fresh attention to the manuscript, and the findings have been mixed. The Turkish connection. In 2017, a researcher claimed the manuscript was written in an extinct Turkish dialect. He said he'd translated several pages and they described herbal treatments. The linguistic community was skeptical. His translations were vague and inconsistent. The theory hasn't held up. The AI analysis. In 2018, AI researchers at the University of Alberta trained an algorithm to detect. When they fed it the Voynich Manuscript, the AI suggested it was Hebrew written using an obscure cipher. Other researchers tried to follow up. The translations they produced were nonsensical. The AI had detected patterns, but those patterns didn't unlock meaning. The proto-Romance theory. More recently, linguists have suggested the text might be an early Romance language, a predecessor to Italian or Spanish. The structure has some similarities, but again, actual translation attempts have failed. We can see patterns, we can detect structure, but we cannot read it. The manuscript has been digitized. Every page is available online in stunning high resolution. Anyone can examine it. Thousands of amateur and professional cryptographers have tried. No one has succeeded. And here's what truly bothers me. With every dead end, with every failed theory, the manuscript doesn't seem less mysterious. It seems more impossible. How does a medieval book defeat artificial intelligence? So where does that leave us? After 600 years, after countless brilliant minds, after AI and supercomputers and statistical analysis, we know it was created between 1404 and 1438. We know someone valued it enough to keep it safe for centuries. We know it exhibits properties of language without being any language we recognize. But we don't know who wrote it. We don't know why. We don't know what it says. And increasingly, some researchers are questioning whether we're even asking the right questions. What if the Voynich Manuscript is something we don't have a category for? Not a code, not a language, not a hoax, something else. The medieval world had different ways of thinking about knowledge, about communication, about the purpose of writing. What if this manuscript made perfect sense to its creator and original audience, but we've lost the context to understand it? Or what if it's simpler and more disturbing than that? What if the manuscript is a message, and it's not meant for us? The Voynich Manuscript sits in its climate-controlled vault at Yale, waiting for someone to finally understand. or waiting for us to accept that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved? What do you think? Is it a code we'll eventually crack? An elaborate hoax? Or something we can't even imagine? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into history's darkest mysteries, subscribe to Shadow Archives, because some secrets refuse to stay buried.